Give me.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Long Bangers in association with Lee Spirits. I'm I,
Hello, I'm Colin.
And I'm John.
and I'm not reading that start, even if it goes out live. I'm no bother.
The show must go on.
It must go on. Exactly. There is no point in doing it. And the good thing is, if somebody's listening back later on podcast, they'll be completely unaware, other than the fact that I've now drawn attention to the fact that we fucked it up.
Aye.
We,
Um,
What is it they
we
we.
call that? Is it
collective. We win and lose as a team. That's the rule, isn't it? Is that the way it works? Um, another Hibs win. 1-0 against informed Kilmarnock. A very, very comfortable win. Um, it feels weird to say it, but Hibs look to be in quite a good place at the minute. Uh, I'll get the team up in a minute. Just sum up the game, John. You tell me what you thought of the game, and I'll get the team up on the screen in a wee second.
uh good first half? Probably should have scored more. Hibs looked good. Second half, I think we struggled a wee bit with Joe Newell having gone off, but we seemed to regain a wee bit of composure when Dwight Gill came on. In between that, I think Kilmarnock had a bit of pressure without really doing anything with it, which was backed up by some stats that I saw the day.
Mm-hmm.
So, aye, it wasn't the most attractive game of football or the most attractive win, but we won.
Uh,
And as we've described recently, points are always important, but in the context of where we're playing just now and the challenges that we've had at the start of the season, points are massive. And the challenge that was set before the game was it was a must win. It was a 6 pointer. Tick tick.
Tick tick. Colin McBee, what was your summary of it?
Boring now, eh? Getting boring. We need something to complain about. I don't know
Where's the
what I'm
drama?
No,
I
Need
no,
more
know,
make
drama.
complaints.
I
Fuck
know.
that.
Hey, we've got content to make. It was good. You know, what? It wasn't great, but it was just we were just there for the 3 points. Like, and I know, like, eventually, if we keep winning loads of games 1-0, people will complain about the style and all that. But I'm happy with the style that when you win 1-0 against a team like that, like we've been saying,
Mm-hmm.
are in form. You know, they've got Dell in charge, winning mentality, all of that stuff. So and we played them at their end game a wee bit. Well, although did create more, did create more. I'm talking about the XG, which I know people didn't. A lot of people don't like, but the XG was like, they were never, they didn't even look like scoring yesterday.
No, didn't they? Did that one chance with Vassell when he was through in the first half, and he passed it back to
Yeah.
Smith. It was like a really comfortable save. Um, Colin, the starting lineup, I've got it up on screen there, so I'll just run through it and you can
You've
give
got the
me your
wrong one up.
thoughts. Have I? What one's
No,
this?
you've got a Hibs Ross County.
There you go.
About
Didn't
3 weeks ago. The show must go on. Just run with it.
Do you know what?
So there was
I
two
can't.
changes, eh?
I
That was
can't.
that's what you're
I,
saying.
I can't even be blaming being hungover this week. Was a little bit hungover this morning, but no. I'm not bringing other one up on the screen. Two changes then. So Hoylett came in for Yuan, and the other change was O'Hora dropping out for Miller. Colin, happy with the team?
I think when we were picking when we done a prediction, we thought Miller might come in for O'Hora just because he's went off injured or went off early in the last couple of games. Maybe assumed he was carrying a knock, lot of games in a short period of time. So happy with that, and he had a good game. So definitely happy with it. Yuan didn't expect him to be out, but I seen he wasn't on the bench either, so I assumed he was injured, which I think Hibs later confirmed.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a knock or something. So um, he could have started with Gale, but he's went with Hoylett for whatever reason. That nobody will be questioning now because we're winning games. Obviously, if we'd been losing games, that's when they get called about. I was hearing about Hearts because Hearts lost. No, they never lost, right? But that feels like a loss when
Feels
you
like I
lose two
lost in it
goals
for them.
like that. Their manager's getting criticised for the substitutions and all that now, and I was like, "Oh, this is just what we went through. This is just what we went through. Everything gets questioned when you're not winning." So, aye, Hoyle it in for you, and I didn't. Aye, it's fine. I was okay with the team.
John, what you any concerns with it?
No, no. I mean, if there was any sort of concerns, it wouldn't be related to the team. It would be more to do with the people that were missing because with the January transfer window, opening 2 days away, you're thinking is it a knock to the foot, or is Yuan being rested ahead of a possible sale? O'Hora, I think because I think he's done okay, but he's also made a few errors.
Mm-hmm.
But then his replacement, Lewis Miller, has also had a few errors this season as well. So it's kind of like, well, if he's injured, how long term is it? How long are we going to have to rely on Lewis Miller? Can we rely on him to be disciplined and fill that position that O'Hora's been playing? So that they would have been my concerns. But actually, Lewis Miller had a really a really good game, not just defensively, but he managed to break forward quite a few times. And on another day, he's maybe getting one, possibly two goals.
You made a good point about Yuan being missing. So there was a bit of chat in the pub before and after the game about that, and whether or not he might be sold. Do you have a gut feeling on that, Colin? Do you think we've seen the last early Yuan, or do you think it was just really a Occam's razor, and it was as simple as the fact that he's got an injury and that's why he missed the game?
What does the razor thing mean?
Is the simplest answer is normally the right one.
I'm going with that. I think he's injured. I think he's only been back a handful of games, and it's only in the last 2 or 3 games where he's contributed goals and assists. So it's not going to be enough for a team to come in for him. I think it's more likely he'll be away in the summer.
Although you have a fucking brilliant highlight reel, won't he? Like, see if his agents, his agent doesn't even have to be that good to put together a good highlight reel for him.
Yeah.
To put out to draw interest. John, what about you? What was your gut feeling? Did you think there was something more sinister than it just being a knock?
Nah, I think the way that these rumours seem to go sometimes is that it builds for weeks beforehand that there's going to be something happening. But the fact that we've had however many games in however many days, it suggested more that he'd picked up a knock during the derby and he was
And he
being
did
rested.
come off, didn't he, in the derby as well? So.
Well, actually, we've got Ian on the comments said a sore foot. He was sitting behind the dugout, so I think that's you and there. Just while we're on the comments on YouTube, Chris Black said, "Evening lads, workmanlike performance. Really happy to pick up the points. Never felt in danger yesterday, but we would have lost that game 2 months ago." And he actually thinks Miller comes in ahead of O'Hara. I honestly think he's designed to play on the right of a 3. Has everything to be a success there. And that's maybe one we'll come back to later on in the episode and talk about Lewis Miller in that position. Chris's point there, John, about it's a game we would have lost 2 months ago. Actually, Ian Tocco, hi Ian, says the same thing. A few weeks back, we would have lost for sure. The mentality is chalk and cheese. Would you agree with that, John, or not?
It's hard to say because the the results at the start of the season and just what were we saying, like 4 or 5 weeks ago, so pre Aberdeen comeback, I think we'd still picked up some points then. So we'd had a couple of games where we'd had draws, but then there was also a few really disappointing defeats as well. So it's hard to tangibly say we would have definitely lost it.
Mm-hmm.
What
I
we
think
would have
it's
done,
possibly likely that we might not have scored and we ended up with a 0-0 draw.
or somebody would have made a fucking howler and it would have been 1-1, like we drew with Kilmarnock because of a fucking ridiculous penalty.
I mean, you
When we
could
were-
point to Danny Armstrong's challenge on Jack Iredale a few weeks back. Like we've had those defensive errors previously where he doesn't clatter into Iredale and he nicks the ball away and maybe gets the rebound or whatever. That's a possibility, but there definitely seems to have been a switch in the players' mindset going into games and what they're I don't know, like what they're playing for. I know that sounds a wee bit daft, but they seem to be more united in what they're doing for one another. So if whereas previously what we were getting hampered by were individual mistakes that were costing goals, it seems like a player can make a mistake, but they've got a teammate that's kind of picking up the scraps behind them, if you like.
Mm-hmm. Into the game itself, it wasn't like a shining example of free flowing football. I think our first chance came in about 10 minutes, which was Hoylett's chance at the back post that he fluffed. And just looking, there's a cracking tweet. I shared it earlier on. It's the XG race is the name of the table. And I've referred to this one before, right? So the Hibs Observer share it. And what it does is it sort of shows you when the chances have been in the game and then how good they were. So effectively, in 10 minutes, we had this chance, which had an XG of 0.5, right, which means it's scored 1 in every 2 times. and obviously Hoylett missed it, and you would think it's easy to
Is that the
score.
one, the tap-in?
Aye.
I think he got flagged offside.
Did he?
I was at that end of the ground. I'm sure that the linesman's flag went up.
I never saw the flag going up for it. I thought he just took a goal kick on the back of it.
I don't
Terrible
think
miss though, wasn't it? Like
Pikes.
if
I'm sure he did.
and they never mentioned it offside on the highlights on
Mm.
Sports Scene. They just went, "Oh, that can."
Because they just took the back kick because it was that far out. I'm sure it was offside. I'm sure he was flagged for offside. Maybe somebody else that sits in the west can confirm.
John, any mitigation for the miss?
No, there isn't. Like, even though he was off, he didn't know he was offside. You know what I mean?
Probably
If it
not.
was-
Probably not. But I'm going to focus on the positive. So I think when you would describe the opportunity, you prefaced it by saying there wasn't much in the way like free flowing football yesterday, but that move was free flowing.
It was
So
brilliant.
I think Campbell takes the ball. I don't know if he receives a pass or how he gets the ball, but he plays it with his left foot out to Martin Boyle. And I was thinking about this for the rest of the game because I don't think that I don't think of Josh Campbell as being a left-footed player, but when he gets himself into the box, he goes for the Martin Boyle's cross with his right foot. So I'm guessing there's a little bit of two-footedness there. And it's something that I've not credited Josh Campbell with before, and something that I didn't credit him with when you were asking me about his qualities in our previous episode. Because I think having that ability, even though like he doesn't need to be equally adept with both feet, but to be able to open your body up and keep the move flowing rather than having to take a touch and turn your body and then move outside, just keeps everything moving.
Absolutely. I think it's amazing, John, and I've said it before, but that you get told how many players make it, 0.1% or less get through the system, and yet the majority of that 0.1% are so one-sided that they can't that they'll no use their other foot. Even without getting into criticism, look at Louis Stevenson, Joe Newell, like they'll rarely use their other foot. And they're in the 0.01%.
Stephen Fletcher.
Mhm.
Fletcher played fucking at a really high level.
It's quite fucking incredible. Like that, you think if you're picking for all that and you're discarding 99.89% of people or whatever it is, that you don't take the two-footed ones. I think it's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
But that means all the ones are leaving one-footed though, eh?
Well, that's right. They're not even that good with the one foot. That's fucking mental, eh?
Aye. I don't know. I don't know if it takes an unkind bounce when Campbell fluffs it, but I don't know if there's any contact there. I'm being kind here. I don't know if Hoylett takes his eye off the ball. I don't know if there's a bounce there, but you would have. I think Hoylett's got the easier chance than Campbell, but probably marginally given the situation we're in, given the ball that was played in.
Aye, it was a sitter. I think there's no two ways about it. Just a fucking sitter.
I take it if he was offside, it wouldn't count in that XG race, though.
No, I don't think it would have.
Yeah,
I don't think it would count if that's what makes me think it wasn't offside because we never had another like really good chance like that. They would have scored so highly in the XG.
The linesman put his flag up, mate. I don't know if the flag for other reasons.
Aye. We get the goal comes to Nicky Carden corner. Cracking header for Chantis. Colin is this kind of straightforward goal, wasn't it?
Aye, what, 2 yards out or something? It felt like that. I was sitting right above it, actually. I was sitting in the south upper. It felt like right above it. Good view, yeah. But aye, another goal for a corner. Fuck's these stats. Somebody's gave us enough information with the goals corner stat.
No, really, because what you have to remember, it's no. So what's the stat? It's like 3% of corners result in goals, but it's no all the same team. Like it's no like 3% of Hibs corners, or if you think how many corners would have been taken over the weekend.
Yeah.
That's where that stat kind of plays out, I believe. Nicky Carden, John, what a difference he's made to the team with that delivery. That's another assist for him, which I think keeps his run of assists going to God knows how many games now.
I was just going to say, excuse me, that I thought we were maybe doing the goal a wee bit of a disservice because prior to that, I think the ball's come to Hoylett and we've managed to fashion a chance. And Nicky Cadden's, let's call it perseverance, he's managed to take a touch, he's managed to fashion a volley out of it, and I think it's just gone narrowly wide of the post, which is obviously taken a deflection that's led to the corner. But the danger of his deliveries is really working out well for us. And like I remember maybe a couple of minutes before that, Martin Boyle's taking a corner, I'm thinking, well, why is Nicky Cadno doing it? But it must just prefer the left-hand side, or maybe it was something to do with the conditions. And actually, if you remember, like he's had to replace the ball like two or three times because he kept getting blown away. So credit to him for sticking to what he does best and not letting the wind or the conditions put him off.
I think
Just
there was
as
folks saying we only signed him because his brother was here. Mind
who
that.
was that?
Fucking
Fuck knows that. I heard somebody saying
Not only signed them because of that, just that it was convenient.
it.
You know,
Is that what they
that
said?
happened. Like,
Is that what they said?
it wasn't an exclusive reason. It was just a reason or a helping hand, wasn't it? Like the fact that we got him. I suppose the next thing to talk about is the red card that Killie gets. It's really the next significant moment in the game. It's 2 bookings for Armstrong. Chris Black has said, be interested to see the thoughts on the Armstrong red for me. I'm convinced that the first yellow was a red and VAR should have been looking at it. What are your thoughts on the first yellow? Was a sort of arm stroke elbow into Nicky Cadden's face. Colin, yellow or red for you?
I think yellow. I don't think that there was heavy force, but it's definitely a booking.
John?
Definitely, but it could be. I see what Chris is saying. Like you could see why. I'm sure they probably did check it, but they went, it's not hard enough.
Don't think it was far away from being a straight red. I think if he'd maybe, I think because of how he's gone in, he's led with the arm and it's caught Nicky Cadden on the chin. He's not swung an arm in, but it's it's a booking. It's a silly booking, but it's definitely a booking.
I think it's one of these that it's not clear and obvious. If is that subjective? If the referee'd given a red, I didn't think VAR are overturning it, but I don't think they're going to get involved with the referee getting a yellow as well. It's one of those ones that you would go with the referee's decision. I was happy enough for it to be a yellow. I wasn't really kind of screaming for a red card at the time. The second one caused a bit more discussion. So McInness, after the game, was talking about how fucking stupid it was that the referee wasn't asked to review it, and he says that Iredale's effectively kicked Armstrong, which is a mental take on it. Like McInness's whole view on that was fucking
It's
ridiculous.
fucking nuts.
John, what did you make of the second yellow card then? Was it a fair cop, Gov?
At the time, I couldn't have said for certain because of where I was sat at the ground. I was having to look through a couple of players, but I've watched it 2 or 3 times since then. In fact, more than 2 or 3 times, just especially following McInness's comments because I was trying to give Armstrong the benefit of the doubt, believe it or not, to try and see if there was maybe an argument there for him not to have received the second yellow. Because bear in mind, like it wasn't a straight red, it wasn't deemed like serious foul play or whatever. And I think, and like it's such, not that I've not played football anything like the same sort of level, but I feel like I've been in that situation before where you're trying to get a foot on a clearance, like you're trying to maybe direct the ball towards the goal because of where he was. But the way that he comes in with his right foot doesn't suggest to me that that's what he was trying to do. But actually, it's his left foot or his left leg is the one that catches Iredale, I'm sure. And again, like it's definitely a booking, but it's also definitely a silly booking. And I couldn't argue against it because we've witnessed that so many times from Hibs players, and I think we've been magnanimous enough to say they were 2 silly bookings. Like Triantis, for example, earlier in the season, 2 silly bookings.
Yeah.
So I don't agree with McInness's comments at all. 2 silly bookings deserve to go.
He's made a fucking fool of himself there. I mean, he's like he's trying to change the VAR rules, and you go, well, that's fine then, but he's still getting sent off. You could have maybe subbed him because he's on a booking. He's obviously got the mentality that he's fucking lost the bait because he got booked. Threw his cell in, definitely caught him. By the way, if the striker gets to the ball first and then the defender kicks him, it's a penalty. So it's a foul, it's a booking. Iredale beat him to it. I think at the time, that was a game right in front of me. I thought, Iredale's, he definitely caught him, right? But then I thought Iredale's made sure the referee's seen it. But he came off for about fucking 5 minutes there. So it's clear he's caught him. And he's threw his cell in, like, recklessly. Now, which is a yellow card. I think reckless is what it says in the rule book, or the law book. I didn't really come up. I've not seen anybody disagree with it. But when it was us, like John said, when we had players on a booking and they were getting their second yellow, everybody was saying, all the pundits, all the media, it's silly to dive in like that when you're already on a booking. So that's the same. So why are they not saying that? Just because their pal's the manager. Fucking, he gets a free ride, McInness.
I thought his post-match comments were ridiculous, and I hope he's phoned up the referee today to apologise about it as well, because McInness is completely wrong. Talking about how bad a decision it is for the referee, his players chucked it for him. He's gone in stupid with a flying arm, and then diving into a stupid tackle. Like it's entirely on Armstrong, nothing really to do with the referee. He's left the referee with no much choice. Ian says Lovell was adamant there was no contact, but I think what Lovell was watching.
Lovell's a funny one, eh? He's sometimes quite wild with the stuff he says. Sometimes he's quite good, and other times you go, "What the fuck are you watching?"
Aye.
But other times he's quite insightful. It's like erratic as fuck.
And then other Ian says thought both were yellow the second a couple of years ago wouldn't have been given. That's probably right as well. It's that sort of challenge that sometimes gets booked and sometimes it doesn't. But I think these days it's definitely a yellow card.
I was going to say I could see the merit in that if it was, and we're talking about like fractions and milliseconds here. He's late. It's not like it's not coming together where he's close to getting the ball. He's late. So
Yep.
it should have been a booking a few years ago, and it's a booking now. Like it's just a red.
Right. Next question on that incident. Iredale seemed to take an age to clear it. Like the ball, Smith saved it. It spilled into the middle of the goal. Is more or less at Iredale's feet. Jenky knows the contact's coming, and just times it to almost invite the challenge. Or is that giving him too much credit for it?
Aye, no, I don't think so. He's maybe I can't quite remember. I've not seen it back properly. Like that part of it, I've seen the tackle back. I hadn't looked at it with that eye on that. I'd be surprised. Is he maybe not just looking to see if there was a pass on rather than just a bluter at the park?
I don't know. Like, would you be looking to pass it in that position? Like, I think that really you're wanting your defender just to fucking clear it because it's
and that's what we've been doing. But that's not the Pep way, eh? Like, so I don't know. Like normally you would try and keep possession, but I don't know. Like maybe he just had a look up, and I doubt you would say it. And now he's out. Okay, he might not play now on Thursday because he's been caught. I would doubt that. Maybe, but I doubt that.
Fair enough. John, the red card, if anything, seemed to galvanise Kilmarnock for a wee while rather than us. I think at that point most folk expected Hibs to kind of take control of it. I mean, we were already in control of the game, but to really sort of twist the knife, but we didn't really do that. Kilmarnock started kind of chucking the ball into the box a bit more, and I think this is partly because Kilmarnock are that used to going down to 10 men this season under McInness. That, they're obviously like a reflection of him as a manager. I think that played into their hands a wee bit.
Is that 8 red cards?
Something like
this
that.
season, is that right?
It's ridiculous, yeah.
That's almost is that as much as us? I feel like we must be rivaling them for.
They double.
Have we only had the 4? Feels like more.
We'll beat Giantis, Newell.
It's just the 3, I think, is it? Anybody else been sent off? Somebody can tell us in the comments. But Giannis, Abita, Newell, and then I think the other stupid things where they were like giving away penalties rather than getting the red cards.
Oh, Kaharovic, he got a second yellow for that penalty you're talking about.
That should have been
it's about double. If Kilmarnock, I don't know if this is permitted within the laws of the game, but if Kilmarnock were better off with 10 players or they were so used to it, why would they not just start with 10 players? If that was better than the 11.
Imagine that.
Aye, because then they go down to 9. That would be the problem.
That's
to start with 11 to allow for the losing one.
It's always like the handicap in the bet, innit? Like starting with 11, knowing that you're going to get one sent off.
Be some innovation that, like we sit on Thursday, we just turn up at St John's Station, we just play the 10 players. We knew somebody was getting sent off, so we just take them off for you.
We've trained for it all week. Who was it? Was it Levine that said that he trained, or
Nielsen?
Nielsen said he did it before they played Rangers.
Yeah.
Which,
by the way, get money on that next week. Like they're fucking after they're humming it, after they're bumping their gums, getting the decisions they got yesterday. You get fuck all. Was it beaten in
Dallas? Is it?
Dallas? No. Is it no Clancy?
Oh, Clancy, yeah, Clancy and beaten. We've got.
And Clancy was the one that gave them the decision yesterday.
Aye, we're getting fuck all. I mean that's they were I didn't get started with it, but them bumping their gums for a fucking week and a bit, but not getting a penalty. They had an actual fucking good goal. Just going, we're just not giving them that goal. Motherwell will be fucking raging.
I know.
And
It's absolutely nuts how and the Radio Scotland pundits. I listened to their podcast this morning. They just went, aye, the pundits in the studio just all agreed that it was the right decision. You go, fucking game are they watching?
mental.
Like everybody that's watched this since has went, or everybody that's no worried they're going to get their windies tanned in or whatever, has went, aye, that's not a goal. Get all the pundits doing in England and that on, on Sky and stuff. None of them thought it was a solid goal. It's fucking mental. They just gaslight us. We spoke about that before. They just gaslight you into thinking you've seen something else.
And the argument, so we're well off on a tangent here. The argument I saw about the fuss for the Rangers Celtic one was that for the papers and that, putting Rangers in their headings gets loads of hits because it's like a Google search or whatever, right? Well, this involved Rangers. They can still put Rangers in their titles. They can still make the exact same fuss and get the hits, but you'll not hear a fucking peep about it. After all, the VAR review came out today, so there might be some reference to that, and then it'll be a fucking column. Kettlewell will mention it somewhere down the line how they should have gone 3-1 up against Rangers or 3-0 up against them, whatever the score was at the time. And it'll just be fucking die to death until we're moaning about it and we'll get whatever decision goes against us for them. You can bookmark this or fucking timestamp it, whatever. We'll call it now. We'll get some mental decision against us when we play them, because that's how it works now. We did eventually kind of get back into the game though, so Quan had come on, Newell went off. I don't think Quan had the best of games, Colin, but we did start to get Gail came on as well. We did start to get a bit of more control of the game, and I actually thought the game management for the team was really good after that. What did you think about how we saw the game out?
I would never look like conceding. I never even heard anybody around me going, and I was in the South Stand yesterday, which is obviously where a lot of the part-timers were sitting, and I never heard anybody giving it the, oh, here we go, Ken, like the chat you normally hear, especially when it's folk that didn't go all the time and just read what they're told to by the media and that. I didn't feel thing. I thought Gale was good when he came on in terms of he won a couple of headers. You know, he was up winning, sort of try to link the play and win headers and that. Quan, not sure about him. And I know, like, Joe Newell gets a lot of criticism for fans. Obviously, his video last week of put him up in the estimations of many and showing his leadership and all that, right? The stuff he gets criticised for. And I don't think he's as consistent as he could be. But even when he's playing badly and he comes off, we're not as good a team. We're not as good a team and he's not on the pitch. And it's been the same when we were losing games. I said that at one point when we were losing games early in the season and he came off. And we're not as good a team and he's not playing. And now that doesn't mean we can't sign better than him next season or whatever. But at the moment, when he comes off, no matter if he's not having one of his good days, we're not as good when he's not on the pitch. And it was shown yesterday, I thought, in the second half.
John, is there some allowance for Quan given the fact that he's not really played much football recently? I mean, he came on in the derby, but he's not somebody who's had loads of minutes in the legs, as the expression goes these days.
I think so, because over the last, well, if you call it, like, let's call it the last 6 weeks, where, like, from the Aberdeen game, or the last 6 games or whatever, I don't think Quan's been in the starting lineup. And there's going to be, like, we're talking about, like, togetherness, and we're talking about fighting for each other and team spirit and that sort of stuff. And Quan's been on the fringes, so I think it would be difficult for him to come into that. And as Colin says, I don't think he's the same player as Joe Newell. I had the same. I was talking to someone when we met up in Boundary Bar last night. There were only a couple of things where I could point to and say that Joe Newell was properly involved in the game. However, we did lose some fluency in the second half. We did lose a bit of calmness in the second half that Quan couldn't introduce. And I couldn't point to anything tangibly and say this is what Joe Newell was doing that made us a more calm 11 that Quan wasn't doing, because it was to all intents and purposes a like for like replacement. But Quan wasn't. I don't know whether that just kind of. I don't know whether it's I don't want to say spiritual, but I'm searching for the word. So Joe Newell's the captain, and I don't know whether losing the captain had an impact on the team psychologically that Quan couldn't make up for. And I thought I saw possibly the reverse when Gale came on from Kilmarnock's perspective, where they thought, we need to look after this guy. So that maybe like occupied a few of their minds. Probably psychobabble mumbo jumbo, but I can't otherwise quantify it as to how we lost our captain and we seemed to become under a little bit more pressure until Dwight Gale came on, where it seemed to relieve it a little bit.
Colin Chantis was given the man of the match at the ground. We'll maybe kind of come on to see whether you agree with the decision or not. But we've got a couple of sort of conflicting questions or points on the YouTube comments. So Chris said Sunderland signed Chantis for 300,000. Do we offer 300,000 to 400,000 and make him a permanent sign-in? And Pomegranate 1978 says we need better than Chantis. Where do you land on that debate?
I thought he had a good game yesterday, and he was one of the better players. I thought him and Miller were probably the two. And I've criticised both plenty this season. I thought he does. I think he's. Can he tell? I don't know. On the signing him thing, I don't know if I would pay that amount of money for him. But if we could get him for less than that, then I'd maybe do it. You know what I mean? I don't know if we could get him for like pennies rather than hundreds of thousands. Maybe. I do think he's, and I was surprised we spoke about it. He's only 21, and I kind of say young. So he is young, but he's a young player that's playing. You know what I mean? It's not like we're not saying this is but he's actually 21. Like he could probably qualify properly for Young Player of the Year. Like not like a 23-year-old doing it, a 24-year-old doing that. I don't know who better is. That's the problem, because I want to sign the best players that we can get as well, and I don't know who's better. I don't know who would be available in our price range. I think I would quite like somebody experienced in the midfield that, like I've spoken about before, that dictates the pacey games, all that kind of stuff. Giannis might be able to do that in the future.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he can do it now. But I think he's good at what he's doing.
What about you, John? Where do you stand on it?
It's a hard one to call. I think as well because because the team's gone through its ups and downs. Now that Hibs are starting to perform a bit better and we're starting to get results, I'm reluctant to say, aye, definitely let's keep him. Because there's also been some of the problems that we've experienced earlier in the season. I didn't want to fall into that trap of, well, we're winning games, so we're amazing and everything's fine. I think also, however, on the point of signing better, like I think in the position that we are, like in the context of like world football, like there's always going to be a better player out there. But whether we can afford them or not is a completely different story. At the same time, I would say, so like I remember a couple of years ago, I think, who was the boy that played for St Johnstone that went to Wigan? Hibs were linked with and seem to have been linked with and
The
keeps
defender.
making a come and get Kerr, Jason
Kerr.
Kerr. So I remember Ryan Poaches being compared with Kerr, but like unfairly, because Jason Kerr had already played something like 200 games by that point. So we could get a triad, like if we're talking about getting a better player or more experience, like Colin referred to, then should we sign him and develop him through those games so they can get that experience playing for Hibs? And it's that and I think this is where Malky Mackay comes in and says, well, that is the direction that we're going in. Like you need someone to make that decision.
Yep. I think it's an interesting one. I probably like maybe this is one for an extra time in a couple of weeks' time when we're sort of in the middle of the January window. So if you are a subscriber, we do a series called Extra Time. Right, so it's an extra episode every week. Tonight we're looking back at our start of season predictions and seeing how those are looking. But we tend to also do things like a review of the transfer window or what the team needs. So we will be picking that up, right? But the team's seventh at the moment. Is there anybody in the team that you would be absolutely desperate to kind of go and spend that sort of money on, or is it the case that we want to have players that are going to take us third or fourth?
It's the next step, isn't it? Like, and it's really hard because I've tried to explain this to people, and I'm still struggling to find the words exactly for like the challenge of the January transfer window or future transfer windows because we've had a shit start to the season. Now we're starting to perform, but we're already talking about, well, we need to get rid of, or we need to replace, or we need to do better. And it's like, it almost feels like there's I don't know if I'd call it like a recency bias, but the players that are getting as the results, we're going, thanks for your work, but you're getting replaced.
Aye,
And,
that's what they need to take that. They need to take the emotion out of it. Like the emotion needs to be looked over a period of time, because it's like that even with like say. So we went through it. I don't know if you were when you were on your wee break, but were you on it? We went through it and we basically fucking decimated the squad. Right, we were losing.
Was out of contract. Yeah, the ones that were out of contract, we were like,
and we kept in them. And I'm tempted to go, well, have I changed my mind just because we won 4 games? I don't know. It's maybe put some of them in more of a light, and the ones where I was saying, well, no sure, maybe that no sure's keeping more into a keep. But we've got to remember, like, that they were all making mistakes regularly. That they were chucking goals in. They weren't attracting their men. Just because we've won 4 games in a row, that doesn't mean they've stopped doing that. It means they've stopped doing it in these 4 games.
But for now, yeah,
it doesn't mean they'll stop doing it forever. And that's where I am, and that's what was kind of, and I didn't get into it, but when Rocky booted the one in his own goals last week, there was people scrapping about trying to find the reason why. Whereas actually he's just booted the ball in his own goals, and he's done stuff like that before, and it's almost go, well, have we got to keep persistent? Have we got to give him another 3 years? Or have we got to just say, like, you're decent, but we need better.
I think as well though, like the club the club haven't said they're going to get release Rocky at the end of the season, or they've not said that they're going to release. They've not named any players that they're going to release, but you have to imagine that the players that are out of contract, unless the backroom staff, Malky Mackay, etc., decide to keep them, you've got to imagine that some of those ones that are out of contract are the ones that they are going to move on, and it represents like the opportune time.
Amos is what I'm moving. Seen him on LinkedIn.
Is he open to work?
He says January. Hopefully, get a move in January, something like that, or an option or something. But I think just on that though, like all these players, the manager was getting criticised for playing the players, or the club were getting criticised. David Gray's doing really well to motivate the guys that know they're leaving to go and win these games now, because that was a criticism that he was getting 3 weeks ago. Quite a lot. We were getting that on here, weren't we?
A really interesting point. It's been raised on Twitter as well. I've just actually lost my place, but effectively it was about no upsetting the apple cart. Here we go. It's Rob Morris said, unless we lose 1 or 2 key players, I'd be keen to stick with what we've got to not upset the apple cart. So one of the features of the last few weeks and this upturn in performance has been this togetherness, the team spirit. And definitely when you watch the team at the moment, we look like a team that are playing for each other, playing for the manager, playing for the badge. All the things you would absolutely want. You look at the scenes post full-time and Boxing Day, even at full-time yesterday, the team going around and getting the applause for the crowd. There's obviously something good happening at the minute, and it's working. There is that risk. Like, do you stick or twist with it? Like, if you're David Gray, Malky Mackay, and you think actually that bond and that the team functioning as a team is working at the moment, what is the risk of upsetting it by bringing somebody else in and disrupting it? Colin, I'll ask you first.
What is it? Well, there is a risk of that, but I think how do you get better is by get better players in, and that's what they'll want to do. Now it might be that because everybody else tells you January is too hard and you can't do it. But if we were to get a couple of replace some of the loans we've got that aren't playing, right? Because we've got loan players that aren't getting a game. There's no point keeping them. If you're getting loan players in, they need to be first picks. Otherwise, there's no point bringing them in. So if we could replace those loan players with better, even if it was just for Bournemouth, Route 1 easy stuff, just give me your third choice striker and your third choice keeper, and if you've got a centre midfielder, you know what I mean? It's like then you've got rid of Bursic, Harovic, and Kwon, and a winner. So no player.
Yeah. Okay, John, what do you think to it?
You'll have to remind me of the question. Sorry.
about potentially disrupting the team spirit that appears to exist at the moment by bringing in new faces in January.
So that was one of the things I was referring to about the transfer window being a challenge, like that stick and twist aspect of it, because like we are getting results despite there being players there that we, like a few weeks ago, we would have happily seen the back of. However, I wonder, in terms of strengthening, I wonder if you can do something about bringing in the same sort of character of player. Like, if we're not just
Mhm.
talking about like skills and whatnot, like if you can bring in the same sort of character that complements the existing bond that the team seem to be building, rather than bringing in the ringer who just turns up with the fancy motor with a Louis Vuitton bag and smells nice. I might be talking about Marcondes, by the way. But Marcondes was like the shining light, the marquee signing last year, and didn't really contribute as much as we would have liked. But then you also had Melida that came in who had a point to prove and did really, really well. I'm ripping off other John for the phone because we were talking about this last night, but it seems an opportune time to drop it in. But I think that's the kind of change that we need in the January transfer window, or the additions that we need in the January transfer window. Very, very careful, well thought out additions rather than just, well, he must be good because he plays for Bournemouth.
Yeah. I think you've hit the nail on the head there. It is like it's not that we shouldn't do it because it might disrupt things. It is that we should do it, but do it well, and take the time and consider it. On keeping people, I mentioned it earlier on about Lewis Miller and potentially whether he's better suited to that right centre back than right back position. So a couple of folk had mentioned that he might be there. Sandy said he said he'd signed Chiantis. Added on one there, but we also said Rob said he'd extend Rocky's and Miller's contracts as well. So Miller is again another one of those. Colin, we discussed Miller in extra time. I think we were splitting him, weren't we? Like you said let him go. I said extend. I think we've got the option of a year on him if I remember right. So John, where would you stand on Miller and Colin? Have you changed your mind at all? So John, I'll ask you first, and then Colin, you can come in.
Miller was troubling me a few weeks back because there was a period there where it seemed to be any time he turned towards his own goal when he was playing sort of Chris Cadden right back, he would get caught in possession and it would set up an attack, which just wasn't great. However, what we saw yesterday reminded me a little bit of, and I'm going to get pulled up for this by another of our listeners, reminded me of Paul Hanlon and Effie Ambrose and in the Neil Lennon side in terms of starting the attack from defence. Like they weren't just like three big guys at the back. Rocky sat back because he's not the ball player. And yesterday Miller was able to get forward, and Iredale was able to get forward and support as well. And that's the challenge, isn't it? Because you go, well, how do you balance it, and how do you arrive at a decision? Do you say, well, you've had more bad performances than poor, or do you say, well, I know what you're capable of, and that's where you need to take, like Colin said, you need to take emotion out of it and say, actually, you've had more bad performances than poor. Like we're not just going to hang about for the few stellar performances that you put in, and we need to try and get better.
Colin, do you staying with your original view, or have you moved on that at all?
It's only been a couple of weeks.
It has
so
only
no.
been a couple of weeks.
And he's not even played in all the games that we won. Played yesterday. So no. But he was good yesterday.
Okay, right. Moving on, the football for a fiver yesterday. We had a full house. That was just shy of 20,000 folk, or just over 19,000. I think it ended up. Off the back of a derby win, this is a game that we would usually expect to kind of fuck up. Really, if we're quite honest, like the amount of times we've seen Hibs fail to follow up a good result with another good result, particularly when they've got a full house there to watch. We didn't do that this time. We followed up the good result with another good result. What does that say about the sort of the attitude, the mentality of the team, the character, the stuff that we were calling them out for at the start of the season, John? What does it say about that now?
I don't know. I don't know if it says anything at all, because And it's funny because I had the same conversations going to the game. I had the same concerns going to the game because I remember, say, like, was it when we won the CIS Cup and then like a couple of weeks later we had the derby and we were going to show off the trophy and it just seemed like a really inopportune time. I'm trying to think of other ones, but there's definitely been others like maybe where we beat like Rangers or Celtic with like away from home and then the next game at Easter Road you go, well, we should win this because we've won against like the two best teams in the league, one of the two best teams in the league, and then we fucked it. But yesterday, I don't know. I don't. I don't think it says anything. I don't think like, and that's not to take away from like the mentality and character, etc. of the team. They've just gone out and done a professional job. Like they've done just what they were meant to do. And actually,
Okay.
like I think as well, like I think possibly having scored in the first half made a big difference because it wasn't 0-0 going into the 70th minute, and you didn't have 19,000 fans or 19,000 minus the Kilmarnock fans starting to get edgy, starting to get anxious. Like there were a couple comments around me saying, "Oh, we definitely need a second goal." I never felt that we needed a second goal. I acknowledge
I
the
did.
pressure that Kilmarnock were putting us under, but they weren't really creating chances from it. So I was semi-comfortable with where we were. And I think that played its part in the way that the afternoon panned out.
Colin AHFC said, thinking back to Gray's comments early in the season about short-term pain for long-term gain, August to December probably doesn't qualify as short-term pain. However, it was worth it as we may never lose again. Um, Gray mentioned it, and so one of the things that we talked about is throughout the season, throughout the bad run, was that the performances weren't necessarily as bad as the results were suggesting. We have the XG table that we've referenced a few times as well, which has us sitting at third. That point for Gray, where he always had that confidence that it was going to get better. Now, is he being proved right at the moment, or are we just at a moment in time where things are looking like he's proved right at the moment, and it could just as easily turn back? Or where do you stand on it?
I think it's. I don't think we could have been as unlucky or as consistently be punished, and that's where the unlucky bit comes in because everybody makes mistakes, right? Every team, but every time we made one, it cost a goal that cost us points. That's how we're still top of that table. Points when leading lost. It was it 12 or 16? I can't remember. I've seen it come
16,
flash
I
up
think it
during the
was.
derby,
Yeah.
and you think that's the difference. And we spoke about it before. Aberdeen were on the right side of the 1-0 wins and the 2-1 wins. We're now on there, and that's it, just evening out. I never felt, and that's where I like the mentality question that John was answering a minute ago. I never felt the mentality was that bad, apart from these individual mistakes, which you go, is that mentality or is that just ability or concentration? Whereas now that's not happening because we've changed a couple of players about. Iredale's come in, he seems to be on everybody's back all the time, making them fucking concentrate as well as Ewan coming into a bit of form and stuff, and Boyle coming back. So I don't think I'm not putting it down to mentality. Like I just think that they were a better team than the results proved earlier in the season. But I don't think now we're maybe as good a team as winning 4-5 in a row. Either, you know what I mean? It's just circumstance of the games, and we've cut the mistakes out. I think that's it. It's as simple as that almost. They must have been doing the training, pointing the head, pointing finger at the head, and all that to stop them making the mistakes.
It's like you don't want to fall into the trap of that, like the Aberdeen syndrome. I think we'll reference that fucking.
I was trying to dig that out the day, right? There was a podcast, the Radio Scotland podcast, that can Aberdeen win the title? And I was digging it out because I sent a screenshot of it at the time. You guys, I think, going, fucking hell, look at this. Like, they're way OTT. And I can't help find the screenshot because I was wanting to dig that out. And it was only fucking about 6 weeks ago.
Aye.
Like, they were talking about that. Now they're in relegation trouble.
It's mental, but it is that thing where you can easily get carried away just on the back of results one way or the other, where you think we've won 4 and we're flawless now, and then we're not flawless. We're still making mistakes. We just like a better striker than Vassell would have scored in the first half, and we would have went 1-0 down, or 1-1. I can't remember what.
And Rocky kicked one in his own goal, but we got 2 goals to get rid of the hole.
That's it. Rocky slips at the end. Shanklin takes an extra touch, fucks up. A better striker puts that in the back of the net, and it's 2-2. And we're talking about mentality again. There's not really anything different other than the bit that we can't control going wrong.
Yeah,
for the opponent. And so that's where you're going. Aye, like it's probably you don't want to get carried away and think everything's good, but also the same thing when it's not going as well, you didn't get carried away saying it's like fucking the worst Hibs team ever and all the rest of it. Although sometimes it did feel like that with some of the games that we had, like Dundee away, did feel like the fucking worst Hibs team.
There was a couple of real bad ones in there.
A couple of absolute horrors in there as well, which you kind of lose sight of. The other thing that we spoke about during that sort of bad run was how do you get out of it? Like how do you stop the habit of conceding late or doing the stupid things? And I think the answer was you need a few games where you didn't do it, and we've now had that. Like so, the games where we've won by a bigger margin, like the 3-1s, I think are less impactful. But coming back against Aberdeen to get 3-3, seeing that the derby is massive, and again it comes down to a wee bit of luck, like we were just speaking about there. And then I think seeing out yesterday's game at 1-0 with Killie chucking everything at it as well, because McInness definitely tried to get something for the game. He didn't just go, let's make sure we didn't get a hammer, and he tried to get a point. That has to help, John, doesn't it? Like for going forward to give the team the belief that we're not necessarily a team that gets to 90 minutes and then fucks it up.
Yeah, just that. I don't know if you'd call it a watershed, but just that game against Aberdeen, like to come. So that, like, when we're talking like a couple of months ago about things that would have not gone in our favour, coming back from what I forget now, was it 3-1 down, 3-2 down against Aberdeen? Like we scored twice in the last couple of minutes. That wasn't happening just a few months ago. But whatever it was about that performance, whatever it was about the free kick and I don't know, like whether it was belief, whether it was like circumstance, whether it was luck, a combination of things. But it's definitely had a galvanizing effect. And like you say, like how you address those problems are just by like it's just like one game with a clean sheet, one game without having a player sent off, one game where a player doesn't make an error that results in a chance at goal or in a goal. And I think we've been fortunate that through changes and the games that we've had that we're seeing like an accumulation of those things that has to add to the belief that they are capable footballers, that they are capable of doing what they're paid to do. And not just getting, lambasted with like all the worst possible descriptions of them that you can think of.
I think that's fair. Right, from Twitter, Stephen Bell, and taking it off on a wee tangent here, says, I noticed that the stadium catering has a meal deal of a pie and a pizza or a hot dog and a drink for £7. Scotch pies are priced at £3.50 and most other pies £4 with a hot drink at £3. Do they think us Hibs fans are stupid? Another more important topics, Rocky was sensational again. And we had a wee bit of chat after that about the meal deal thing. I believe it's a packet of crisps you meant to get as well.
Did this come up in the podcast previously? Like
Josh asked
you,
about it before. He asked about the kiosk and they didn't ken. They didn't ken what the meal deal was.
I was fucking raging yesterday just on that South Upper.
Oh, go and tell us, Colin.
There was a queue, right? There was a fucking queue, and my daughter was in it. And I went to the toilet, and I came back, and she was still in the queue, hadn't moved. And I was like, fuck's sake. So anyway, the queue started getting bigger and bigger, and it was into the actual, because they only had it going queuing one way, right? And it was queued out into the seated bit. So the stewards come in and spoke to the two folk that are serving. And obviously saying, could you get me on the tills? And they've said no. So the steward decided to go to the back of the queue and bring them all forward to create a new queue at the front. And I'm going, mate, you can't just take everybody to the fucking back and bring them to the front. Like, you need to take folk for the front and move them across. Otherwise, he's been standing here for fucking nearly 10 minutes and you've just put 10 folk in front of the fucking queue. Just went, I need to move the queue, but we've done it the wrong fucking way. It's just that they do get fucking stupid. They do. The catering's terrible. They knew how many people were going to that ground yesterday. They talked about sell it for weeks. The two youngsters on that bar, that kiosk bar on their Todd. It's fucking ridiculous. They don't, and it costs a fucking fortune for the shite they give you. It's terrible. Anybody at Hibs that's listening, it's fucking atrocious. There's no decent about it.
I'm sure we saw a message saying that they weren't allowed to sell pies before the game as well. Like that
no steak pies, by the way. No steak pies when you get to the front of the queue. That's what she was going for.
This is at some point somebody will be saying it's a team winning now, and this is what you've always got to fucking
I
moan
know.
about is the pies.
I know.
I'll take that every day of the week. By the way, if
I
all
know.
we've
They
got to
hot
moan about
water.
is the pies, and this fucking
But we didn't
terrific.
normally go. We didn't normally go. So when I get the opportunity to feedback on it, I will, and that's my feedback. It's fucking atrocious. They knew how many were going. Didn't have any pies, and it was early. It was just before half time. It was just at half time. It wasn't like you're going like at the arse end of it. It was like, but then for the steward just to decide to take folk for the back of the queue, that was the one that got me. Especially having 4 pints in there.
Aye. Jason Ladd said the service was hopeless, so get something else to back it up there. On Rocky had a really good performance yesterday. Again, mentioned Chantis getting man of the match. We were having a bit of chat coming out of the stadium about who else could have been in contention. My son thought Nicky Cadden, who I thought was a good shout. If you were picking a man of the match, John, who would you have gone for?
Good question. I think when the announcement came out at the ground yesterday, I was thinking, I'm not sure who I would give it to. Because I didn't think that anyone stood out. I thought it was a collectively good performance.
Aye.
Maybe if you were to revert to like who had the standout moment, I would maybe say Nicky Cadden because of the way that he fashioned that opportunity that led to the corner, then the corner delivery. Because that was like it was a good header for Triantis, but it was really he just needed to get something on it because it was that good a delivery for Nicky Cadden. Otherwise, there probably wasn't much in the way of standout moments. So I would say Cadden, Nicky Cadden.
Colin?
Hey, Giannis or Miller? One of my two.
Aye.
Yeah.
Produce. I made the point that you made, John, that I thought we had a lot of good performances, but I didn't think anybody was absolutely like
It's probably like
head
a
and
6 and
shoulders
7
above.
across the board, eh? Yeah.
Aye. It's like a team of Lewis Stevensons yesterday and got the job done. Neil Waters said a great, horrible win. Lots of games catching up with a few players, not enough quality on the bench, and a few carrying knocks and injuries. Trying to manage players, so great win and keeps up the momentum. Need a few out and a few in to help the squad. Top 6 now a realistic goal. Colin, you came into the boundary bar after the game and pointed out that we were 4 points behind fourth. I think that's now 7 because Dundee United won. But the top 6 definitely within touching distance. Is it too early to be talking about Europe, Colin?
I think let's get the top 6 first. That can happen on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
But then I don't want to start. As soon as we start talking about stuff like that, then the expectations increase, and then it's a bigger fall. So let's just get in the top 6 and then pick away out for there. This is what I would say. It's not going to happen overnight.
Underplay it and just like keep chipping away and keep trying to get the results in.
Stay
Under
humble.
promise, over deliver.
Is it, who was it had the stay humble thing? Was it Haaland?
Haaland to Arteta.
Oh yeah.
And then while they were dropping down the fucking league.
Aye. Well, maybe that's what we need to. Did they drop down in the league, but stay humble, right? Vince Robinson said, "Is it okay to look up the table now?" They look to be running on fumes. A win at Perth, and it will have been the best festive football performances for many years. John, that's a really good point. Like Hibs are traditionally quite shite at this time of year. It kind of gets to the clocks go forward or back, whichever forward, back, whatever one it is. And the arse falls at Hibs traditionally, but this is as good a run as we could have hoped for. I mean, is it like 4 wins at the last 5 or 5 wins at the last 6? I think 5 at the last 6, and the Celtic game was in between there. We had the
Aye, so it's four wins in a row. Then you had the Celtic game, and then you had the one before that. I think someone will correct me if I'm wrong. I think the one before that was the Aberdeen game. I looked into the idea that Hibs were just shit over the festive period a couple of years back, and I got my spreadsheet and I was on Wikipedia and I was doing tally marks and all sorts of stuff. And I think when Hibs have a poor season, they're shit over Christmas, but that's just reflective, I think, of a poor season. I think when Hibs are having a good season, they do well over Christmas. I don't think we've ever had, say, a stellar season where it's all just come undone at Christmas. But I've not got the information anymore. We've certainly, but I mean, like certainly for like the last 4 or 5 years, maybe even going back to like Jack. In fact, if we probably the best thing to look at would be the team that finished third under Jack Ross. Like look at the record then and see whether there was like a dip at Christmas.
Yeah.
that the one we chucked our Livingston and Ross County ones in that we used to refer
Aye,
back to?
they were at New Year time, weren't they? Like those two ones were bang in the middle of that sort of festive period. I mean, we've still got January to negotiate, but we'll see what happens. Baz said ground out that yesterday wasn't pretty. Wind a major factor, but delighted with the 3 points. I think with the amount of sprouts in that will consume, Baz, you weren't alone with the wind issues. Mixu99 says tough game and 3 points priority. Couldn't help view the squad as very thin on the ground at the back. And up front, last week's phone-in suggested differently, but in my opinion, we absolutely need player movement in and out next month in a few key positions. Top four is a real possibility. So the centre half positions definitely one for talking about. We finished with a right back at right centre half and the left back at left centre half. So is a centre half on your shopping list for January, Colin?
I think that comes down to what the injuries are like with O'Hara and Ekpiteta. Because Ekpiteta, I'm not sure, he was out for about 10 weeks, and I'm not sure how many weeks ago that was. So he might be back by the time of the end of the window, possibly. So then you go, do you sign somebody to replace him, who just as he becomes fit? Or do you replacing O'Hara, who we just signed in the summer, and just accept that? I don't think he's not good enough, but I think it's still quite early to say he's made a few mistakes and stuff. But if he's been playing through injuries, he's obviously been playing through an injury recently, so any mistakes there you could possibly put down to him not being fit, if you're looking for excuses for folk. And then, but we do have, so we're playing 3 centre halves, and we've only got, how many have we actually got on the books? 3. Ekpiteta, Rocky, O'Hara.
Well, it depends if you could
And
McClellan. He's
Iredale.
away on loan. Like, no
So
good
we've
folk
got
could
4.
away on loan.
I'm
Yeah.
not including McClellan, so we've got 4. Iredale, Rocky, Ekpiteta and O'Hara. So it's the add a 5th is the thing, and I think that would depend on the injuries. How long's Iredale out? How long's O'Hara? What's his injury? When's Ekpiteta due back? Then decide if we're doing it.
And what's the quality that's available is the other consideration.
Exactly, because it's January. Yeah.
John, Chris said another big performance, and finally we've learned to hold on and grind out a result. Not sure about Quan. Hopefully Newell is back for Thursday. Thursday becomes a massive game. Again, like they all seem massive, right? But it's less massive than it would have been a few weeks back. But Colin, you mentioned it's a chance to get into the top 6. Looking ahead to Thursday, John, would you be looking at resting players with an eye on Rangers at the weekend, or is it strongest 11 no matter what, and just hope they all make it through in time to play Rangers and be fine to play Rangers?
Strongest 11. Aye, no, I recognise the demands that the players have got upon them at the moment with the number of fixtures we've got in such a condensed period of time. But this is probably where motivational skills come in for David Gray, and desire for the players comes into factors in it, because like I was laughing there when you described it as a big game, because the next game after that is also a big game.
Of course,
Like
they're all big games, aren't they?
They're all
Really?
big games.
Yeah.
Aye. But Ranger, like we're getting into like that sort of free hit territory, aren't we? But Rangers have also, as people are reminding me, having a really bad time away from home, so there's an opportunity to pick up points. However, that's 2 games time. We need to deal with the one in front of us. We need to try and, claw ourselves up the league, keep increasing that gap on the teams behind us. So no, it's a strongest starting 11 for me. Try and get the 3 points. Try and get the rest afterwards, and let the Rangers game take care of itself.
Okay, Christopher says, what's wrong with recording after a few pints? Obviously, we were all in the boundary bar yesterday after the game, and hello everybody who is tuned in now that was also in the boundary bar yesterday. It was a good evening. It was just logistics. I would have quite happily recorded if we got back, but we would all been home at different times, and we didn't really care how and when we would all be home. So we just decided to do it the night as well. Hence why we're doing this now and no last night, 3 sheets to the bin.
This should be extra time we're doing right now.
It should be, it should be extra. And if you're, like I said earlier, if you're a subscriber, we will be recording extra time just right after this. Not live on YouTube, unfortunately, but it'll be out in subscribers podcast players tonight. Xander Clark was a rumour. Sandy said we must sign him. He's been wasted in Gorgie. He's brilliant. Where do you both stand on Xander Clark? Would you take him?
I think he's a decent keeper, but I don't. Did they not have like? Well, he got loads of clean sheets last year when they went to third place. He was in the Scotland squad for the Euros. Eddie Craig Gordon as well. Rumours that Craig Gordon's went above his head to budge on that, isn't there, to get his place back in the team, which wouldn't surprise me because he's a sneaky cheating cunt, like we covered the other night.
Correct.
But I don't know if there's better out there. Like, I assume there probably is, but then I don't know who they are. So I know who he is. I think he's all right. He's proven here. He's won cups in this league. He's been picked for Scotland out of playing in this league. He's got like a bit. He's experienced. He's not a young guy. I don't know. Must be late 20s, maybe older. I don't know. I'm swithering. He's a big maybe for me, but I don't know what else is out there again. Like, I know that Will Dennis got rave reviews last year. He seems an easy one to get, but I don't know how good he was. Like, I just know he played at Killie and people said he was good. And then I heard he was at Bournemouth and I thought, well, why are we not getting him?
Yeah,
that was where I was in the summer. But again, I don't know. I didn't pay enough attention. The only reason I watch other goalies is to go, your goalie's not that bad. See, look at the mistakes he's made, which is what I started doing with the distribution stuff a couple of years ago. Where folk were on Macy's case, I said, but they're all shite at it. That's why they're in goals.
John, would you take him?
See if it wasn't for the fact that he was on the bench or like number 2 or number 3 at Hearts, because I think they've still got a boy Pereira on their books. I don't quite know what.
Is that the boy that was Man United guy? Like,
he must be. He was fucking shite. Like he was as bad as any keeper we've had in fucking the last however many years.
Yeah.
I think he's still there, John.
The only reason I mentioned it is I saw his name. Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, I don't know where Xander Clark's position is within the Hearts team. But if he was playing at if he was number 1, would I be saying we need to go out and sign him? When he was at St Johnstone, did I think we need to go and sign that goalkeeper? And the answer is no. So I don't know if the fact that he's, because of the factors that Colin described there, like he was in the Scotland squad, he was head of Craig Gordon, etc., etc. Is it like a proximity thing? Is it because he plays for Hearts and we could bloody their nose by
there is that, but he's proven in this league, isn't he?
And he was capped as well. Like, it's not like he was My issue with it is I spent fucking years cultivating the fucking Teen Wolf nickname, right? And I could probably get past that on his own, but he's also at Hearts. So, and I think either of them on their own I could overlook, but the two of them is a lot of fucking backtracking that I'll have to do. Ken, one of these ones you have to sort of go, oh, he doesn't.
Always liked him. I just done that. But he says always that. I just done that, trying to put him off his game because I was.
It was affectionate.
Respected him.
Affectionate and respecting that, and I'm thinking, oh, fuck that. But listen, if he signed, he would get my full support. If he doesn't sign, fuck him, the Hearts bastard.
That's pretty much where I am.
Right, last couple of talking points. We won't necessarily talk through them. I'll just read them out because we're almost out of time. And we've got another episode to record, right? Raymond said, great momentum just now from nowhere. Eating my words as I thought so David Gray was done after Dundee. He deserves great credit for taking the heat off the players and never shirking from taking it to from talking to the media. Long may it continue. All right, and I see we're only going to talk about it. Actually, I want to just sort of labour this point a wee bit. David Gray looked inevitable that he was getting sacked. It looks now inevitable that he's going to get Manager of the Year. Is it just a case medal? So my observation of David Gray was that he was his consistency has been his biggest strength. Like he never got fazed when things weren't going well. He didn't panic or chuck the players under the bus or anything. He just sort of stuck to what he was doing, believed in what he was doing, trusted the players, changed the formation, which he sort of said at the start that he was going to try and do horses for courses, but he seems to have found a formation now that works for it, works for the team. how much credit we give him? Like he was under real pressure, John. He's now under less pressure. Everybody gets credit for this, right? Both for sticking with him, great for seeing it out, or is he just a bit lucky at the minute that things are going well?
I'm going to say it's, excuse me, I'm going to say it's shared credit for players, board, chairman, owner, people, like the people responsible, because we were giving all of them stick when things weren't going well. So now that things are going better and we're getting results, I think they all deserve credit for that and the work that they put in. I think the point you make about consistency is a pretty powerful one because, like you've talked about leadership before, and I think in all of, if not most of the interviews that I read of David Gray's or hear of him, it's players first. He's always backing the players. He's always believed in the players or the things that he's saying. So, aye, like I mean, I know there's an aspect of if you just if you repeat something often enough that it becomes true. But we've seen that. So like when Nick Montgomery was in charge, like you criticised Nick Montgomery's interviews because it was just like he was saying the same things, like he was just repeating the question back to the interviewer. But I think, if nothing else, David Gray, when he's been asked these questions, he's given thoughtful answers. Like he's answering the questions that are being put to him, albeit he's repeating that same thing. Like it's the players, it's belief, etc. Like I believe in what we were doing. We just need to cut out the mistakes, but I believe in what we're doing. I believe in the direction that we're headed, like short-term pain, etc., etc. And hopefully that's what we're now getting to see as a result.
Okay, right, we're out of time, so I'm just going to rattle off these last couple of points and then we will wrap up. Right, Pete said, delighted by the win. Too often after a big result, we've dropped the ball. Not today. Despite not being near our best, we got over the line. Beating 10-man Killie isn't for everyone, you know. We shout out to Rocky, constantly takes the ball to the back and was solid. Jake Gapper said, do you know what's quite funny? Heart of Midlothian Football Club. Absolutely correct. George Clark said, throwing praise at everyone now is the same as being disparaging when results were poor. Performances have not really improved. 26 corners conceded against Ross County and Kilmarnock at home. No control here. Motherwell away good. Coin spin is landing on our side at the moment. I think there is some merit in that, George. I don't know if I don't think that we'd say that we never had control in those games against Ross County and Kilmarnock. I think we did, but probably not to the extent that the results necessarily showed. But I totally agree. I think we spoke about it enough about things landing our way or going against us that it does make a difference, even if the performances aren't necessarily that different. And Kieran Gallagher said, oh man, football terms rubbish year, but the last month has been tremendous. Seeing that lot chuck a 2-0 and McInness after the ref at the end of the game has made up for it. And Nicky Cadden with a wee heart emoji next to it. Right. That's the time. Last reminder, anybody who's listening is on Hubwave. This will be the last one. No extra time actually will be the last thing that you'll get on Hubwave. After that, we'll not be posting any more content on there. We have asked them to stop taking any payments, but they do collect on the 1st. So to save you having to chase them for refunds, because we'll not be refunding you because we didn't get the money for them, cancel your subscription, go in and unsubscribe there, and then head to Patreon and you can sign up there. It takes 2 minutes. It's fucking easy and it's much better as well. If you're not already a Patreon subscriber or a subscriber at all, do the same thing. Go and have a look at Patreon. You get extra content. It costs £3 a month-ish. I think there's a wee bit of VAT or whatever to add on, but give or take £3 a month is fuck all, and it's good content that you get for it as well. If we do say so ourselves. Right, thanks for tuning in. For everybody on YouTube, thanks for your comments as well. It's been great having you with us, and we will see you all next time.